So let's get into our first topic now. Should we raise taxes on the rich? Chancellor has said that higher taxes for Britain's wealthy will be part of the story in next month's budget. But she said this won't lead to an exodus of rich people. Rachel Reeves told The Guardian that people were worried about Labour when it changed the rules for non-doms and announced VAT on private schools. But she claims that's scaremongering, and it didn't work, and people didn't leave the country. And Reeves has already ruled out a one-off wealth tax, but we could be looking at things like raising capital gains tax or creating higher council tax bans. Wilfred, she's going to have to do one of three things, okay? So let's just get back to the basics. Borrow more, unlikely, because we're already borrowing to the hilt. Cut more in public services. Again, that is going to have a huge negative impact on people's infrastructure, so unlikely. So she is left with that one option of raising taxes.
If she does that, I'll tell you, mark my words, because I'm not one of these rich people she talks about, but they probably think, if she does that, mark my words, that is the death knell for the Labour Party thinking they're going to win the next election. Because the number one problem that everyone agrees with is we've got to do something about growth.
Yeah.
Governments do not create growth. All a government could do is create the right sort of environment to allow entrepreneurs, to allow people to go and do that, to allow those people to take the risks. If I am going to put my house on the line, have to put personal guarantees in order to take a risk, do you think anybody in their right mind is going to do that, knowing that actually if they do manage to achieve something, that money is then going to be taken away from them because of all their efforts? It is madness. What they have to do is the hardest thing, is to say we have to cut government spending. One of the things I think about this...
Let me pause you there, because that's really important. What would you cut?
So benefits I would cut, for example. One of the biggest problems that we have at the moment is that we are far too generous in terms of the welfare state. There's a massive situation coming along with AI. It's going to make masses of people redundant in the traditional way of working. What you've now got to say to everybody, look, we've got to create this climate so that people can go and start up their own businesses, because work as we knew it will not exist. Now, you've got to be bold to actually accept this challenge that's coming down the road, and you've got to cut as much as you can.
Okay.
All the government spending, you've got to, even if it's an NHS, that is the one bold thing that somebody's going to have to do.
I mean, benefits, a restructure of welfare has been on the cards, and Labour did try and do it, and of course have had to walk back from it. But even that's not going to be enough for the 40 billion that we know she needs. Cherry, should she be taxing wealth?
I mean, there's a 22 billion pound hole.
Don't you dare say you're going to agree with it,
The levy's going to raise potentially 12 billion, so it's not even covering it, but it's a good start to not tax the rich versus cutting benefits. To me, that's just not a good option. And I agree that, look, we should encourage people to be entrepreneurial. We should create a healthy entrepreneurial environment. But she's not taxing those people who are at that stage in their business journey. She wants to tax people who've made a huge amount of money and who should be not avoiding tax.
We're going to fall out.
Some people will go, but some people will stay, and they will pay more tax.
The evidence that people are going is simply not there. There was a study, it was quite flawed, but let's forget that for now, for whether people are coming or going. There is a big difference between taxing income. So if you're working in the city and you're earning, I don't know, £500,000 or more, if not more, that perhaps people should say, well, you're entitled to that, you're working hard, just pay the fair amount of tax. But there's a difference between taxing income and taxing assets. So, Wilfred, what about that, for example, that you're taxing assets? So not income. If you're working hard and you're creating opportunities, that's fine. But people who are sitting on wealth, people who have inherited wealth, 1/10 of the population own almost 60% of all the wealth in the country. What about taxing those people?
You see, in order to get borrowing, you need assets. If I go to the bank manager and I says, I want X, he's going to say, well, what assets can you put on the line in case it goes wrong? And they will then hold that as security. So that is what the problem is that once you start saying we're going to tax assets, you're then going to get in the way of actually creating the opportunity for people to take a chance of business, because they wouldn't put their assets up. That's why it doesn't sort of make sense to me. And I think what it seems to be, it's a bit like there's this idea that there's a lot of these rich people sitting on a lot of money, and those are the people that...
But that is true. I mean,
I want to get my head around that.
There's just under 16,000 people in the country. That's 0.03% of the population that have got assets of 10 million and above. And again, I'm talking about assets. These are homes, lands, dividends, all sorts of assets, things that they own that are 10 million pounds and above. And we're talking about taxing those 16,000
but it's about what they do with the asset. You see, sometimes that asset is a vehicle for lending and for borrowing. So
I wonder how much of lost tax there is in avoidance, and is that not the hole to plug? I mean, there's a huge scheme now where people, not of huge wealth, but of any wealth, can do their accounts. There's a list online that you can find. I'm not giving people tips, but there's a list online of countries where you can put your money through. There's companies that can do that really easily. So it's not just the mega rich who can avoid paying tax. It's pretty much everyone. That should be illegal, and it should be shameful. It should be in the same vein as drink driving. It should be shameful.
If we look at what's happening in France, what is happening in France is because they haven't got on top of actually cutting the amount of money that goes into the public sector. If we don't get on top of it, this is where we're going to end up.
So different points of view here. Tax wealth, cut spending. Maybe she's going to do both. Let's find out what people are saying at home. Sam's in Middlesex. Sam, do you think that her priority should be some sort of tax on the wealthy?
I think she needs to raise money. The question is, how does she raise money?
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, capital gains tax, when you increase it, people tend to hold on to the asset that they were thinking of disposing of because they will actually pay more in taxes. And in the US, they tried something a while ago, which is they reduced capital gains tax for a short period of time. And lo and behold, loads of people got rid of their asset, and the government raked in a lot of money. So there's an example where you can actually lower taxes and rake in more money. The other thing that I run my own business. It's an AI business. I'm a founder of an AI company. I've been doing it for a long time. There's a tsunami coming our way. Lots of people are going to lose their jobs. And we really need to invest huge amounts of money getting people trained up using artificial intelligence so we can get the productivity up. Productivity in the UK is really abysmal.
And has been since 2008, that the productivity problem has been there. Sam, is that only because Wilfred has mentioned it as well, but is the future of all these jobs going to automation and AI, doesn't that mean that the welfare state is going to increase?
So I would say to people, your job is unlikely to be replaced by AI, but is more likely to be replaced by someone who understands and knows AI. So you need to be one of those people who knows and understands AI, and that means training people, and training people now, and making it simple for them to be trained. There's other ways, right? Our R&D grants in the UK to support business is actually completely hopeless.
Research and development,
if I want to raise R&D money in the UK to do something, the amount of hoops that I need to jump through compared to just going to the US and having a venture capitalist loan me lots of money, it's far easier. And so we need to make it easier for entrepreneurs to take that risk. And if they do take that risk, we do need to reward them, because often they are putting their house on the line, lots of money on the line.
Okay, but Sam, I just need to move on because there's a few people to speak to. But last question, though. Encourage entrepreneurs to take that risk, protect them, nourish them. But if they succeed and make a lot of money, also tax them?
Sure. I mean, they will. You know, my last company, we went from 5 people to 350 people, and it got bought by a large American company. All those people paid taxes, right?
Okay.
They all had a job and they paid taxes.
Sam, I've got to leave it there. Thank you for kicking us off. Really interesting call.
Yeah, good one.
Jason joins us from Aberdeen. Jason, welcome to the show. Good morning. What are your thoughts? Should she focus on the wealthy, taxing the wealthy, or cutting perhaps welfare is something that we heard from Wilfred?
What my take on it is she's just trying to tax the wealth.
Tax the wealth.
Tax the wealthy just to give her she wants all her fans, not so much her fans. She wants her fans, but tax the world, yeah.
Tax the
because we've got to help we've got. I don't want to go back to immigrants. I don't want to go back to immigrants.
Okay, Jason, I think you're confusing two issues there, but thank you for your call. Janice is in Essex. Janice, thank you for your call. What do you think that Rachel Reeves should do? I mean, there is a fear that if she puts on a tax on wealth, that, as you heard from Wilfred, perhaps people will hold on to their property, not want to sell it. Perhaps some people will just move country, and you're going to lose people who perhaps have the ability to create jobs in the country. What's your view?
Firstly, I'd like Sam to go and get a job with Reform and be in his government because he talks a lot of sense.
All right, we'll pass that on to Sam.
I've been 73 years there, and all I've seen, Labour come in, spend, bankrupt the country, Conservatives come in, claw everything back until the country's crumbling. I actually think if you're going to keep taxing the wealth, I don't understand these people in government because they don't seem to understand what's going on in the real world.
Right, what is going on?
Of saying you are going to keep taxing people, they're just going to leg it.
Okay, here's a question, Janice. So if you're gonna look at the wealth tax, so these are people who have assets, not earnings, but assets of 10 million and above, and you're saying they're going to leg it. How are they going to do that? Are they going to start selling all the mansions, the houses, the cars, the land? And if they do, isn't that actually better for the economy? Because that gives other people the opportunity to buy that stuff up. So is that necessarily a bad thing?
But then all you're going to do, if what we have done is sell. We own very little in this country anymore because there's so many countries around the world that have bought it all up. We don't manufacture anything. We don't build anything. And all you're going to do is let other people come in, China, Russia, everybody else, come in and buy everything up. And we're going to be sitting here with nothing and stony broke.
Okay, Janice, thank you. I mean, that's kind of an interesting point by Janice, and that a lot of people have made, is that governments don't really own much anymore. So it's all very well you're going out and you're borrowing because we're Great Britain and we can borrow money, but they don't own the waterways, the railways, lots of big infrastructure. So you are having a government that actually doesn't have that many assets, as you were saying earlier, Wilfred, assets that they can raise money against.
But, I mean, that is a problem. I think the thing about money is this, is that holding on to money isn't good. The way you actually generate innovation is that how do you get money to work for you? So people are sitting on a pile of money. That is just not an effective way of managing money.
But aren't you making the point then that taxing those people is the best way because they'll be forced to either pay taxes, which is good for the government, or sell up?
I don't think that people are just sitting on property and taxing then's going to mean they're going to start generating it. Is that I would imagine that most people use their assets to generate
as leverage. More. Yeah, I agree. And I think giving it the government, being in the government's hands, isn't a good idea because it's going to go into the hole. But when it's in those hands, it generates wealth and it's in a positive cycle.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's take a couple more calls. Martin's been waiting to speak to us from Hertfordshire. Martin, welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Morning, Alec. Good morning to you and good morning to your panel. Yet another great show. I just want to I'll be as brief as I can. I just want to put a slightly fresh perspective or spin on this. I was born in Warrington, obviously in Manchester. My folks emigrated when I was about 6. So I grew up most of my life in Africa, in Southern Africa, South Africa, etc., etc. Anyway, I've come back to the UK. And wow, since I've come back, it's the NHS, the public transport, you get blown away when you haven't seen it for so many years. You think, wow, this is fantastic. Well, obviously referred to as a welfare state, but I think it's absolutely fantastic what is done. And obviously when you're used to it all the time, it's easy to go, this isn't right, that isn't right. The point is, if you look at 2023, the British government gave £15.3 billion in foreign aid, money that left the country. In 2024, that went up to £15.4 billion. Now, you just imagine, they always say charity starts at home, but you just imagine, instead of robbing Peter to pay Paul, which is, in my view, that's what you're doing, if you take it taxing on the rich, just half of that, Alec, half of that, £7.5 billion, cut foreign aid by 50%. £7.5 billion, bang, you've got that money. That's just my
Martin, foreign aid has been cut. I'm not quite sure to what rate it is now, but it's definitely not at the heights that you mentioned before. It's pretty low, but that's still, even if you cut foreign aid, you're still very short of that £40 billion that the Chancellor has to raise by the end of November. And she's going to have to find that money somewhere. And I suppose every little bit helps, and perhaps foreign aid is something that she needs to look at. But without any sort of raise in some sort of taxation, I don't think she's going to hit those figures.
But if she doesn't cut, somebody else is going to have to cut. That's fundamentally the bold truth. That there was this. You're not going to achieve it by actually raising taxes. You're going to have to say, I'm sorry, certain things that we used to get or felt entitled to, that is now being cut. Okay. That's the only decision that she could make, but they won't.
Thank you, Martin. Let's take a quick one from Jay, who's in London. Jay, welcome to the show. What would you like to say?
Yeah, 2 points. First point is, it's the poor that pipes up the country, not the rich. So if the rich want to leave, let them leave.
Okay.
The second point, to go after the rich, start up the top with the royal family, the biggest benefit scroungers in England.
Right. Okay.
Then we go for the church. Then after that, we go for the sons and daughters of slave masters in the government.
Gosh, you're like talking about a revolution on November 26th by Rachel Reeves. Unlikely to see that, though, Jay. So, realistically speaking, do you think taxing people's assets would be somewhere to start?
They're not going to do it because they will be taxed on their assets. Kia's already sold 3 houses and hid the money abroad.
I'm not quite sure this. I'm unfamiliar with that. So, but thank you, Jay. We'll look into that, of course. Thank you all for your calls on that. It's time now for us to move on, because later we're going to be asking.